Hey, welcome to Diabolic Shrimp, the least professional talk show on the internet. I'm your host, bestselling author Josh Grant, and tonight for our inaugural show, we have a very special first guest. Our first guest is Mike Kimmel. Mike Kimmel is a film, television, stage, and commercial actor and acting coach. He is a 20-plus year member of SAG-AFTRA with extensive experience in both the New York and Los Angeles markets. He has worked with directors Francis Ford Coppola, Robert Townsend, Craig Shapiro, and Christopher Kane, amongst many others. TV credits include Game of Silence, Zoo, Treem, In Plain Sight, Cold Case, Breakout Kings, Memphis Beat, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Whew. He was a regular sketch comedy player on The Tonight Show, performing live on stage and in pre-tape segments with Jay Leno for 11 years. He is also an accomplished play actor, stage actor. He is an accomplished teacher, and he also gets a vote in the Emmys. So if your show did not win last year's Emmys, go ahead and put your mean, angry tweets down there in the comments below. I'll be sure he gets all of those. Now, he's been sitting in the wings, trying to drink some tea or whatever for like an hour now. So let's bring him on. So, Mike, welcome to Diabolic Shrimp. It is so great to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you very much, Joshua. It's a pleasure to be here, and I really admire everything you're doing for the authors, and just want to be a part of it as much as I can, as best I can, as strong as I can, as long as I can.
Oh my gosh, you're so kind. Like I personally, for those of you that don't know or don't know anything about Diabolic Shrimp, the site, we get to gather authors on there, and we get to talk books, and we get to support one another. And I got to meet Mike through his books. Actually, Mike, you've written how many books by this point?
Oh, 6, and number 7's coming up soon.
Yes. Okay. Sweet. Well, we can get a chance to talk about all of that now. Mike is somebody that I was excited to talk about. With I mean, you've had this historic career, honestly, of just like doing all this exciting stuff. I was a stage actor, so I connect with you a bit on that. But before we get to any of that, I think the best way to meet somebody, I learned way back in kindergarten, is show and tell. Mike, do you have anything for show and tell for us?
I do. I thought that was a great request when you asked me to bring in something. I've got a whole truckload of goofy little props, and this is one of them. I think everybody should have a little piece of cake or pie, and
yes,
it reminds me of. It just always reminds me of something. There was a great story about Margaret Mead, Dr. Margaret Mead. She was a world-renowned anthropologist, cultural anthropologist. Mm-hmm. So she went all over the world, observing different cultures and living with them and writing about the way that they react to different events. And she was American, and she was over there in England and at a conference. And if I believe I have the story correctly, the manager of the restaurant at the hotel where she was staying came over, and he was just gushing because he had read a lot of her books, and he had majored in hotel management, but also in anthropology, and said
he was gushing like me for your books, because I've read your books and they're fantastic. So go on. Sorry.
Thank you very much. And it was an interesting story. He said, we have several other Americans here in the restaurant. She said, really? And he said, yeah. He said, tell you what, when you serve the dessert, just let me know right before you serve dessert, and I'll tell you exactly how many Americans you have here. And he said, I don't think you could do that, Dr. B. And she said, you just let me know. And he let her know right before, and they were having pie, and she kind of walked around making notes, and then she came back to the manager and said, including myself, there are exactly 12 Americans in the restaurant right now. And he said, wait a second. He looked it up. He said, that's incredible. How did you know that? And she said, well, in the United States, when we eat a piece of cake or pie, we eat it from the tip going backwards. And here in Europe, when you guys eat a piece of cake or pie, you start at the crust and you flake off the crust, and then you eat it from the back going forward.
I had no idea, actually.
I didn't know that either. Well, tell me, if you're eating a piece of cake or pie, do you start at the tip?
You're asking the wrong guy. I go from the middle, I just like reach my hand in there and just like eat it like Winnie the Pooh or something, like.
Yeah, but that's interesting. I keep this around just to remind myself that there's so many things we do without thinking about. And so we can always just change that idea, change the way we think about something, change our approach.
Yeah, that was something I found fascinating. I had a friend in the intelligence business, right, and he was talking about having to blend in, right, in like other countries, and he was just talking about how you hold yourself and all that. So I was like, I never knew this about pie though. I'm gonna have to, like, if I'm ever in Europe again, my family's originally from Europe back in the day, and it's like so I'll have to go back and see how they eat pie, you know.
So, okay, from the backwards forwards or forwards backwards, and it's just kind of interesting. Think about what else do we do without thinking about it. And as an actor, when we have a script and we're going out to an audition, we have to realize that maybe most of the people going up for our same role are going to do very many of the actions and mannerisms and the emotions exactly the same way. So if we can find a different approach, a different way to go about that script, break it down and find a different motivation, definitely find a different backstory. It's just like eating the pie from the backwards forwards. Try to figure out a different way to do it, but justify it so that you're not just doing something weird or strange just to be eccentric.
Yeah, I love that. It's like, that was something a director of mine also used to teach me, that it's like, you never do anything on stage that is not for a purpose, right? And it's all for a purpose. So now you've like, you are an accomplished actor. You've been in, like, you know, I read through a little bit of your bio there for people to hear. You've been in all of these things. You were on like Jay Leno for all of this time. So it's like, how did you get into showbiz?
Oh boy, you know, I wanted to be an actor since I was a little kid. I grew up in the beautiful Bronx, and it was, I don't mean to make excuses, but it was a little bit rough.
Yeah.
It was a little bit rough, and we didn't really have a lot of after school programs, and certainly not in the arts. It was a very blue collar environment, and people just really didn't have the money for those type of things, or those type of, they were really considered luxuries. We didn't really have after school centers. We had a local library. It wasn't really very well stocked. A lot of the books were older, and I would say I knew probably since I was 5 years old that I wanted to act, specifically on TV and film, and also just to be a writer, to write books.
Yeah, well, like, you have your books there. I know. It's like, go and show those books. We're going to show them off as much as we can, because let me tell you, I was gonna say, I'll put your pitch in there, because it's like monologues for teens. Like you have we're going to talk more about these later in the show as well. So it's like, but we have like 1 minute monologues for teens. You have scenes for teens and tweens and kids, and I've gotten a chance to read some of them, and from an acting standpoint, I love your just snappy dialogue. So that's so good to, like, it's so good to see that you get to give back, right? You were talking a bit about like you said, when you were a kid and you didn't have as many of these, like, these programs, and I know you're somebody, as a teacher, you give back to these things as well. So, like, for, like, I guess these aspiring, like, young actors and things like that, right? Like, what kind of prep did you do before, like, being on a show?
Oh gosh, you know, I just found the repetition is so. Did I get too dark at a light that just went out?
It makes it more exciting. It's more dramatic this way. Yeah, you look okay. Don't worry about it.
I wonder if I might just step out for a moment.
Not a problem. So here, I'll bring you back on in a second. So let me just talk a little bit about Mike Kimmel's books, though. If you get a chance, like, check them out. He's got like this great variety of between like dialogue and also monologues, and like, for someone that came from the acting industry, it's so nice to actually see, like, something like this. Like, I don't know how many of you out there are actors, but I used to have to prepare a monologue or something for an audition, and it would have actually been wonderful to have something like this. But and that was some of the prep that I had to do back in showbiz. So we'll bring it back over to Mike in a second here, and we'll get him to share some of his prep, because it's like, when you're acting, it's like very odd to, like, the show must go on, as you can kind of see right now. like Mike and I are kind of troubleshooting through. We are, after all, the least professional talk show on the internet. But when you're acting, you have to kind of roll with it, but you want to be, like, prepared ahead of time. We used to do some of the strangest stuff to, like, prepare. So we used to sit there, and, like, in one of my acting things, we used to do, like, yoga. I don't know why we did yoga ahead of time when we listened to like Enya while we were going, and it was a lot of fun. I guess it was like a strange thing going back in the background. So
Oh, for
we'll,
sure.
we'll bring it back here to Mike here, and Mike will get to share a little bit about what he did.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, there's just there's always an opportunity to take a script. I always like to um, do repetition work as much as possible. I find that the more you
Now you're repeating yourself. No, I'm joking. I said now you're repeating yourself. No, it's joking. Go ahead. Go ahead.
about the repetition. Yeah, the more time you spend on a script, the more you can find layers and nuances deep in the script, and maybe find things that sometimes that the author didn't even put in there, or the screenwriter didn't even put in there, and you can delve into character development a little bit more, and you can sort of sometimes find something that's very unique, and it adds something to the show, because that's why they bring actors in. They bring actors in to add a unique, an additional layer to what the writers and directors and producers had in mind.
Mm-hmm. And I feel you on that. Like I said, coming from the acting background. So, like, what's one of the weirdest things you've ever had to do to prep for a scene? Like, we used to, like I said, we used to do yoga for one performance, and like another one, we used to have to stand there. You do these kind of weird things, like stretch out your face and like make sure you can talk. You're like the big blood bleeds big blood or something. You know, it's like,
yeah, there's all kinds of exercises like that for theater, and TV is a little different. TV and film is a little different. It's really very much results oriented. They don't have a whole lot of time to get into it. A couple of times they had me work with a dialect coach, and actually a dialect coach in another city. And so that I was working on a script and having them work on the script with me, and doing a real Southern dialect. And I'm from New York. Still have a slight New York accent, but a couple of times I got booked as a Southern character, and really had to work on making that authentic. And so they put together with a dialogue coach.
Yeah, I was like, I hear you. I was like, I wish I had a dialogue coach. I had a lady from India, and she was asking me to do different accents from around America.
Yeah.
She's like, do a Colorado accent, because I'm from Colorado, and I'm like, we don't have an accent, you know. And like, but then she's like, do a Southern accent. I can usually do a Southern accent, and that was like the 1 second I like tried, and I like sound like I was from Australia, and like this poor lady's like hearing it for the first time, you know. So like, so what was your, like, for you personally, like, what was your favorite project that you've gotten to work on? Because you like, I mean, you used to like wrestle, you used to do stage stuff, you used to do live acting, you used to do like you said, television acting. So what was kind of one of your favorites? It doesn't have to be your favorite, I guess. But
I think it's important for an actor to do a little bit of everything. And I've met actors over the years who said they'll only do stage, they won't do TV and film. Vice versa, I met TV and film actors who said they didn't like stage work. I think it's really important to do a variety. And I'd say my all-time favorite project was working with the great Jay Leno on the Tonight Show. And there were lots of segments that we did a couple times a week where I'd come in and do sketch comedy with him based upon something that would come up in the news, something that was very timely, and it was a real short turnaround time. So you didn't have much time to think about it or put much preparation in, but get a call sometimes 10 in the morning. Hey, can you be at the studio in an hour, or definitely before lunchtime? Say, yeah, I'm on my way. And that would be sometimes a pre-taped segment that they just put up on the screen during his monologue. He would be talking about something and say, when we have a clip of the first day of the trial, and then they'd put a pre-taped segment up. Or there would be something that we do on stage, a little interaction on stage. And it was awful lot of fun. He was a wonderful, wonderful guy. He's one of those guys in showbiz that you never hear a bad story about Jay Leno. You never hear anybody knocking him or saying anything negative. He's just absolutely wonderful guy. But what he would do in a fun way, he would always add something. We could rehearse something 20 times and we'd do it on stage, and he would always throw something in that was funny and that added something. And like, pat myself on the back a little, I was able to try to keep up. That's why I think I was able to come back. I wouldn't get rattled. Just, I think as theater training helps you with that, you know, because sometimes things will not go as planned on stage, and a little improv training is very valuable in TV and film too, and stage. So I think that helped me keep coming back. I just always appreciated the opportunity to be there. I mean, with a giant in the industry like him, and whenever he would add something, I say, "Oh, this is great! I get to improv with Jay Leno." The world is. Whereas a lot of actors would say, "Oh my God, he changed the script," but that's a good thing. I mean, Jay Leno, it's his show, you know. So that's one thing you really has to be aware of, where you fit into the program.
Yeah, well, I'm the little guy. That's how I feel with you. You're kind of the giant in the industry, so I'm just trying to keep up with you. So for you, so you kind of talked a little bit about it, but it's like you were talking about like trying a bit of everything. But what about you personally? Do you prefer live acting, I should say, or do you prefer like pre-filmed kind of?
I do. I like film and TV. I love stage, but boy, it can be very time consuming. So sometimes if you're in a play, as you know, if you're in a play, it's a little challenging to do everything else. So, but TV and film there's a sense of immediacy, actually, that people always talk about with stage also. There's the immediate feedback with the audience, but TV and film, you really have to be on your game, and it moves very, very fast, especially TV. In film, you might have 190 to 120 page script. They basically film about 1 page a day. No, I'm sorry. 1 page of script translates to about 1 minute of screen time.
Okay,
that's what I mean. So on a movie, let's say it's a 90 page feature film, they might work on 2, 3, 4 pages of dialogue a day, and the film will shoot for a month, and you'll do a 90 page screenplay that way. TV and film's a whole different ball game. They'll do 7 to 10 pages a day.
Wow.
Sometimes closer to 10. Yeah. So.
Well, and that's a lot of what you've done was television. So good on you. Also, you get a medal. I can't imagine like having to take takes like that. You know, it's like that's like I used to do stage acting, and like you said, it's that immediate feedback. So it's kind of like learning like to bounce off like this, where we can bounce off each other. And for me, it's like you get me in front of a camera, I just kind of like stare at it. You know, it's like, oh, I don't know what to do. So what has been like one of the most like profound moments of your career? I mean, you kind of alluded to a little bit of that with like, it's kind of similar to favorite project, but for you in your career, what has been kind of like one of those really fulfilling moments?
Honestly, the most fulfilling thing I would say has been working on these books,
these
series of books for young actors. It's something that I spent so many years looking for and wanted to find some type of information or guidelines or pathways to get me started in the entertainment industry when I was a little kid. And it was just so frustrating wanting to do that, knowing you wanted to do it, and the material and the resources weren't out there or weren't available to me. So that's what I try to do. I try to take somewhat complex material and break it down into very accessible material for kids and teenagers, and take out all the stage directions, take out all the props, take out the things that could cause confusion, or as we say in film, that adds an unnecessary layer of complexity. So you don't want to add an unnecessary layer of complexity.
Yeah, I love that so much. I was like, and man, you're just so perfect at this. Is like, let's talk about your books now. Actually, because that is why you're here. I was like, you've written and I was talking to the audience about that. Like for myself personally, like back when I was starting in acting, it's like, and I had to prepare a few like auditions and things like that. And I was talking about that a little bit, and I would love to have something like what you created. And that's why I can't stress enough. You have these fantastic books, especially for people that are wanting to go into the industry, especially for like, you know, younger actors as well. You got teens, you got things like, that's what I loved about yours as well. Is like, you have this fantastic variety of these like deep things and funny things. And so I loved like the combo, and you really touch on all these like profound things. So let's dive into your book. So like your book that you wanted to share today is 1 minute monologues for teens. Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty new. It just came out a couple of months ago.
Exactly.
It's August, and I've been working on it for a while, and just think it'll maybe help some young people open up some doors. And what I also try to do, Josh, is even though it's written specifically for teens, I try to make them applicable for younger people and for adults also. And some of them, even if you change a word or two of dialogue, it'll change the age range for you. Some of them you don't have to change anything. You can use them for younger people or for older, but they were intended for teens, but they can easily be tweaked a little bit.
Well, and I agree. Actually, like one of the things I love, like my favorite genre actually to write in and to read is actually like young adult. And a lot of people like are always like scared to dive into young adult when they go to write, because it's like they don't want people to like shoehorn them into just like, oh, it's a teen drama kind of book. But one of the things I love about it is you get to actually really address some of these like deeper issues. And that's something I noticed about yours. And that's one of the things I actually really loved about your books, is that like often people when they write for kids or when they write for teens, they try to water it down, and you didn't do that, but in a way that it's like it still works for like kids and teens, but like you said, it's easily translatable to the adult realm too. So which I think is really cool. So here let me share like I love to do this thing. I was an elementary teacher for years, right? And it's like, like I like when you read like the same book to kids over and over again, you got to like spruce it up somehow. And so in my brain, you would always have like you read the first lines of any book, and then you add at the end like, and then the murders began, because it makes it more dramatic. Always, you want it to be dramatic. You don't tell this to the kids. I wasn't reading to the little kindergartners like the hungry caterpillar and then the murders. Yeah, but you know, it's like it's fun to add this to like try it with any book. It works. So here it is with 1 minute monologues for teen. The first monologue. So and then we'll dive on in and we'll talk all about your book. So it says, thank you for all that you do, and thank you for all that you don't do, because what you don't do is equally as important as what you do. And then the murders began. So your story starts with this person thanking for someone for like not stopping these murders, right? And so let's dive into it. So tell me a bit about your book, and also your books just in general as well.
Oh, sure. Well, I wanted to write them in a simple, uncomplicated style, and I wanted to give, like you picked up on, some depth and some clarity and some little bit more than just on the surface elements. A lot of the material, unfortunately, for kids and for teenagers is a little bit argumentative, a little bit sarcastic, a little bit snippy, and I found that in the case. Yeah. So I had picked up a couple of books that other people had written when I started teaching kids, because I really had no intention to write these series of books, but I sure am glad that I did. And I had picked up some other books that really just were not working very well. And I said, you know, maybe there's a need. Maybe I should be delving into this and maybe using the experience that I had in front of the camera and on stage, and trying to create material that's going to be, first of all, user-friendly, but second of all, age-appropriate. It's going to be beneficial for people trying to break into the biz.
So nice. So and that kind of leads me into like how did you come up with like such a variety? You know, it's like that was something that I was so impressed by when I read it. Like I've read 2 of yours so far, and like just seeing the I've seen your scenes and I've seen your monologues, and like seeing like it sounds easy to do. It's just like poetry, like, oh, it's just a poem, like write like 7 lines, you know. But when you actually sit down to do it and like come up with different things and make it interesting, you just kind of stare at a paper sometimes. So like, how did you what's your inspiration for these, and how did you come up with? You kind of touched on that, but like, how did you come up with such variety?
Well, I try to find things in the world that I would notice. It's just a question of noticing different things and being a people watcher. And during the day, if I would find something that would maybe annoy me a little bit, or something I would see out in the world that's not quite right. Let's say, for example, I go into a store as an adult, and the cashier is not very friendly, or the person I ask for help stocking the shelves is not that friendly, or the place is not that well kept, or someone's a little bit rude. And if it bothers me a little, I say, okay, I'm an adult, but how would this feel to a teenager? How would this feel to a little kid experiencing what I just did? So I try to put myself in the shoes of a younger person and seeing how they would respond. to something that I'm noticing, either in a positive or negative way. And another sense, you could find something that you really appreciate or something you really admire, someone that's really behaving optimally or at a very high level, and then say, this really seems to be very touching for me. It really means a lot, and this would really mean a lot to a kid. This could be a great role model for a young person. So
That's why I'm not in any of your scripts. So. so like for you, like what what makes good like dialogue or a good story? Like what?
It really has to be very naturalistic, very conversational, just like we're doing right now. That's one of the reasons I think Seinfeld was such a great success, even though they famously had the show about nothing, talking about nothing, but a lot of things they were talking about, they were very, very seemingly very insignificant things, but what drew people in was the naturalness of the conversation. And there were maybe topics that people thought about, but nobody really had a conversation about them. And I think that had a great appeal. So
nice.
If you can make it very conversational, I always say with actors, a great way to test to see if it's sounding very natural is if you're rehearsing a scene, let's say for theater, for example, in a theater, and someone walks by and just doesn't realize you're rehearsing a scene. They just think you're having a conversation. They want to talk to you and interrupt you. I say, that's great. They think we're just having a conversation. They don't know we're rehearsing dialogue. So when that happens, it means you're really striking a chord and being very conversational, very natural.
Nice. And so so for you, I mean, because one, like your strength, like I've read is that like it does sound natural, and that's what I loved about it. It's like, and like I said, you don't water things down, and you get your point across, but you do it in that very excellent dialogue or monologue, depending on what you're shooting for. And so but for you, what would you say is your writer's weakness?
Oh boy, I think sometimes it's coming up with new material. Coming up with the ideas for the new material. But
really, that's shocking because I've just seen your variety.
Well, I look at the things I've done and I say, you know what, I could have done 10 times more, or I look at a dialogue and I'm getting there and getting the books out there, but I just like to be able to do more of them or do them faster. And then some of the scenes or some of the monologues, I might have them half written, honestly, for 3 or 4 months or even a year. And I'm looking at this half a page and I might think, what else am I going to do with this? Where's this storyline going to go? How's it going to conclude? And I try to find some kind of a little bit of a twist ending from time to time and then bring it back to the original, the premise that I started with. But sometimes coming up with the new material, I would say, is the biggest challenge. And I've got a writer's exercise I came up with. I think we were talking about earlier. My favorite tool is index cards. So,
yes.
For example, I was at a coffee shop the other day. I hadn't been in that neighborhood before in a very long time. So I sat down and said, all right, this is my challenge. I'm going to sit around. I'm going to look around. I'm going to find something in the environment, a word or an image or something or an action. And I'm going to write 2 or 3 words about that. And that's going to be the starting point, the jumping off point for a new monologue. And so that's one of my exercises. One of the things I do to challenge myself, if I feel like there's a book that's almost written or not quite there, I might want to do 50 monologues or 100, depending on the length, or 60. Those are usually the 3 lengths that I like to work with. If I'm working on getting a few more up to speed, I'll do that sometimes. I'll go to an unusual place, a new setting, and say, let me look at, and it could be a street sign or a sign at a store, and I'll write that down. And then that's the beginning spot.
Yes, I was like, I'm gonna have to try that sometime. I'm gonna steal your writer's technique.
It works.
So that's, I mean, you come up with it. I mean, like I said, you've come up with this great variety. So, but let's talk about, like, if you had to write in an existing series, right? If you had to write in, whether that's like book or movie or show, like what would you love to write it if they like called you up and like, hey, can you like write us a new episode or a new movie or whatever?
Ooh, I would just love to do something in science fiction, or just because it's a little bit outside my comfort zone. I haven't really done that before. I've assisted in that area a couple times, but I haven't really done science fiction TV show. Or I always just loved the Indiana Jones series, the movies, and the early TV shows, and the more recent ones. It's just great. It seems like whenever it feels like they've done as much as they could do, they always come out with something else, and it always seems to work really well. Such a great character, and that sense of the adventurer going all over the world and doing all these things. It creates terrific opportunities for writers.
Yes, I was like, we'll write one together and we'll pitch it to Disney that owns it now. Just what last couple of things for your book, and then we'll get to share maybe a scene from it. And what is it that you edited out of your book, or is there anything that like didn't make the cut or something like that?
That's a great question. That was one of the hardest things for me to do. It's actually the opposite. In the first couple of books, I ended up putting in a couple of scenes that were some of the early ones that I wrote that I didn't like very much. But I had a teen acting class at the time, and the students liked it. So I said, you know what? This is something I always tell myself when I'm working on a TV or movie set. Also, I say, you know what? This is not the Mike show. And my books are not the Mike show. They're by me, but they're not for me. They're for, as we say in the Bronx, El Mundo. So I've got to find something that might not be exactly my taste, but I can write it for someone who might be oriented that way.
So cool. I was like, it's awesome that you have your own control group or whatever, your own like panel to like check it out. Like, I'm gonna start.
Sometimes, a couple of times when I was writing the books, I had teenage students or a class with younger people or kids that I was doing, and then other times I did not. I was moving around or doing something else, and I wasn't teaching at that time, or teaching a college class. And so I moved around a little bit in my other career, sort of balancing a double career with teaching and showbiz.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So yeah, just sometimes you've got a class in one area and then other times in another area. But yeah, from time to time, I had a group of young people who would test the material out, and other times I didn't. So one of the books in particular, I don't want to say which ones, they all came out of my head. I was practicing them out loud myself, and actually after the book came out, I then had an age-appropriate class that started to use them, and we actually did a showcase with all of them doing material from that book. I think I don't want to let it be known which book it was, because it wasn't workshopped at all. And I said, this is really exciting for me. I told the students, because I've never heard this material out loud. I said, how could you never have heard it out loud? Your students didn't know in the last 6 months or the last year, I didn't have a teen class. Well, I could tell you that it was a teen group. But so that's a great challenge for a writer too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it's nice to work with kids because they can be so brutally honest too. So it's like I read them like one of my books once, like a beginning of it, and they're like, it could be a little faster. I'm like, oh, I've spent like 6 months on this. Like,
yeah,
thanks, kids.
Tell you if they like it. They'll tell you. Or if they don't. But it's I mean, really the same thing for us. If I'm writing something, you're writing something. Let's say we're writing a book about the American Revolution. We could write about our interpretation of what we think it was like, and we could learn about speech patterns that they had back there from reading material of that era. But we really can't know 100% what it was like. So we're putting our own unique thumbprint on it in a way.
We'll make that into a sci-fi thing, like sci-fi Revolutionary War, King George the 73rd.
Time travel. Time travel is a great opportunity too. You can do all kinds of scenes with time travel.
Yeah, so we're gonna do a scene from another one of your books. So you and I can do a scene back and forth here. But what books do you like? But before we get there, real quick, it's like what do you have in the works now? You said you have another one coming.
Oh yeah, I got another monologue book coming out in a little while. Yeah, it's going to be Monologues for Teens Part 2, and Monologues for Teens is a book that I have with it's got a big picture of a green pencil on the cover, and I'll tell you about that one next time, a couple of months down the road. Come on back again and talk about that one. But finally doing the second part 2 of Monologues for Teens.
Excellent.
Been about a year on the works.
Excellent. So, all right. Well, let's do a little bit of dialogue here. So what is this from?
It's from Acting Scenes for Kids and Tweens. And
okay.
It's real short dialogue back and forth. I use characters A and B just to simplify it as much as possible, and that way it doesn't have to be gender specific. You don't have to find a boy-girl scene, boy-boy, girl-girl. Any character of actor, any gender can do any scene in the book. Just pick it up and get started.
Awesome. And so I don't know about any actor. It's gonna take a lot to make this one any good. So I got to dust off my acting skills.
Not what I heard.
Yeah. Okay. So all right. So which one are you? Are you A or are you B?
Why don't you start as A? And
okay. I'll
switch. And then if you switch, I can show you how easy this is to work with.
Awesome. Okay. So you're the director. So fill me in. Like, what should I do to get into character here, Mike?
No character. The books are designed to open them up and read them.
All right. Well, let's do it. All right.
It's just like if you go to the grocery store, do you have to get into character to ask them, hey, where's the green beans? No, you just go in and ask for the green beans. It's the same thing. It's like Seinfeld. I think you always felt like we were sitting in and watching and eavesdropping on a real conversation.
All right. Well, let's do some eavesdropping then. You ready?
Absolutely.
All right. Here we go.
Yes, sir.
Hey, will you do me a favor?
Yeah, I guess. What is it?
Will you put away your phone?
Yeah. Okay. Just a minute.
Come on. Put it away. I'm trying to talk with you.
Just a second. I have to finish sending this text.
So, excuse me. Hey, will you please put that away? I'm trying to have a human being conversation with you.
What is your problem today? I'm sitting right here with you and we're having a conversation.
Oh, you're talking, but you're not even looking at me. You're not looking at you're looking at your phone.
Well, I can do two things together at the same time.
So, but I have something important to tell you.
What?
I have something very important to talk to you about.
Yeah. Okay, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Never mind. I'll send it to you in text.
Huh? What did you say?
Yes, and scene. So loved it. I find it funny. I was like, you're not even looking at me, although I'm looking down at the script. I'm not looking at you either.
Well, I wrote that one because I had a very young student who really had trouble memorizing. So I said, you know what? Maybe there's a scene that she can do. It was for a workshop, and it was going to be a live audience of people seeing the scene in the class. So I said, I could write a short scene about a person who won't stop looking at her phone, and we could pull the script up on her phone, and she did it that way. So she was literally pretending to be on her phone. She was reading the dialogue off her phone. So there's a way around it.
It makes it better than like back in the day when we had to pretend like we're looking at something. You would have to or talk on the phone. You'd like mouthing like peas and carrots, like peas and carrots. Peas and carrots. It's nicer to have an actual like real interaction that. So
if it's real for the actors, it'll be real for the audience.
So last thing about your books here, what would you say?
Why don't we switch? I want to show you.
Oh, sweet. All right. Let's do it.
Great exercise to switch, and I'll be A, you be B, and it's actually a great exercise for actors to do.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Josh, will you do me a favor?
I guess. What is it?
Well, would you please put away your phone?
Yeah. Okay. Just a minute.
Come on, put it away. I'm trying to talk with you.
Just a second. I have to finish sending this text.
Excuse me. Will you please put that away? I'm trying to have a human being conversation with you.
What's your problem today? I'm sitting right here with you, and we're having a conversation.
Yeah, you're talking, but you're not even looking at me. You're looking at your phone.
I can do two things together at the same time.
Yeah, but I have something very important to tell you.
What?
I have something very important to talk with you about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Never mind. I'll send you a text.
Huh? What did you say? Scene. All right. Good.
It's a fun exercise for actors. A lot of times, actors, unfortunately, in the training process, we can sometimes get stuck where we're half listening to the other character, but just waiting for our chance to jump in and talk. So this is a great exercise for actors to kind of be aware of what the other characters' dialogues and motivations are, and we switch roles in the rehearsal process.
I love that. I love how you teach, and I love how, like, in my life, right, acting actually, I'm actually a really shy person, believe it or not, and acting allowed me to get in front of people, and one of the big things that I took away from acting and that I teach to kids these days is like so much in life, right? It's like we're just listening for our turn to speak. We're not really listening.
Yeah.
So I love that you had that exercise in there to kind of see it from their perspective. So what would you say, talking about like your books here, it's like, what would you say, like, for your books, when are they a success for you?
Oh boy, I like to think of them as a success as soon as I have the idea. As soon as I have the idea to go forward with them, and I'll have some scenes, as you probably figured out. I have some scenes or some monologues that might be intended for a teenager audience, and then I say, you know what, this is maybe be better for younger kids. So I'll kind of put that on the back shelf and say, you know what, later on down the road, this will be good for another book that I might not do for another year or two or three. So sometimes
procrastinating, huh?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, a little bit. Well, procrastinating, waiting for the right time. Exactly.
Yeah. That's why I told my teachers back in the day too. They didn't buy it. Just joking. I'm joshing you. So, Mike, like, how can we support you? I mean, I for those of you watching, down in the description, we have Mike's Amazon author page. We have Mike's direct link to 1 Minute Monologues for Teens, the book, if you're excited about that one. And so, how else can we support you, or how can we do that?
Well, I just love getting the word out there about the books. If you
show them off. Don't be super proud, because they are really excellent books.
Oh, thank you very much. Really enjoy writing them. And if you happen to be affiliated with a library or a school, maybe make a recommendation to the school librarian. Librarians at schools and public libraries, they can very often purchase books like yours or like mine at a very deep discount. So that's a great opportunity. And there's a lot of younger kids like I was myself years ago looking for that type of material, but it would have been a little hard to purchase them myself. So if you got a good library system in your area, maybe make the recommendation, tell the librarian you'd like them to add that to the collection. And that's what I'd like to do, get them out there to a wider audience in schools and in libraries, and one-on-one with people too.
Awesome. Well, Mike, honestly, it truly has been an honor to have you on here, really, for our inaugural broadcast, our very first one. And so, hey, well, we'll work on getting you back here in maybe about 6 months, and so we can check back in and see about that new one. Huh?
That sounds good, for sure. Thank you, Mike. Just keep doing what you're doing, and I want to tell all the authors out there, you just work on something every day. That's actually, I didn't mention that, but that's why I love the index cards. You could fill up one index card with a little bit of dialogue, or even sometimes just one sentence. Might just get one sentence done a day, but that step-by-step incremental progress is so important. Just onward and upward, and we get it done.
I agree with you. Well, Mike, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you. Best of luck and success with the new show.
So, well, that was Mike Kimmel. Thank you so much for watching with us. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to check out any of his books, like I said, they're all down there in the description. If you want to maybe like reach out to him or say something to him, by all means, comment it down there. I'll be happy to pass that along. If you want to support Diabolic Shrimp, we support things like a portion of the proceeds from this goes towards things like ocean exploration or disease research for children. And so if you want to be part of that or check out my books, course, those are also down in the description. So please do subscribe. Please do come back and visit us. This has been Diabolic Shrimp. Have a good night.